Hope you're all doing well and welcome to another transfer presentation. I'm doing these mainly because I had a student who asked me about UC Santa Barbara versus Cal State Fullerton, and these are just kind of like my thoughts on the programs. The information and opinions in this presentation are for myself only and not my employers or affiliated organizations, including but not limited to Irvine Valley College in the South Orange County Community College District. Again, this is educational purposes only and does not constitute any legal or accounting advice whatsoever. Presentation is copyright 2026 by myself. All rights are reserved. And just a couple different things is I've taught previously at Cal State Fullerton. I taught intermediate accounting there for 2 semesters, not on the campus, but on the IVC campus. And I attended UC Santa Barbara. So take that into account. The one thing I'm going to tell all of you is that you have to talk to other people. Don't believe anything what you're seeing. Talk to others and then make the best decision for yourself. Okay, so the first thing you need to consider when you're looking at, UCSB seems really, really sexy, but I think that these numbers are wrong. Of course, I generated this using Gamma, so it's not going to always be perfect. But when I went and looked at where UC Santa Barbara is ranked, it was basically ranked 14 amongst all national public universities. And whereas Cal State Fullerton basically is ranked, I want to say it was 69 amongst the top public schools. However, that can be a little misleading because their accounting programs are definitely very, very well recognized. The one thing I do want to share with you is that if you head over to my YouTube channel, by the way, you're watching it now, and thank you for liking and subscribing. If you come over to my videos and take a look at the shorts that I have on my channel, you can see a lot of different videos.
Hello. Say welcome to spring 2026, Cal State Fullerton. Welcome to spring 2026.
So as you can kind of see, the events at Cal State Fullerton Meet the Firms are absolutely insane. And when I've spoken with recruiters, almost all of them share with me that, Cal State Fullerton, as far as the size of the Meet the Firms goes, is by far one of the largest. And I also want to give a huge shout out to the Accounting Society and Beta Alpha Psi. They put on amazing events. I have not been to a recruiting event at UC Santa Barbara since I went through and attended the school. But I have to imagine that those events are also very, very well done just by given the number of the Big Four and other firms that are going up there to recruit students. Okay, so the other thing just to kind of mention here is that the biggest difference between the schools, especially if you're a transfer student, is like, for example, if you're attending IVC and you're going to go to Cal State Fullerton, obviously the huge draw for Cal State Fullerton is you can live at home and you're going to go out of pocket way less than what you would be at UC Santa Barbara. And that has a huge trade-off though, because obviously, you would probably go into debt for 2 years at UCSB or 2 years and a quarter. I made a presentation, which I'm going to link below, that you can watch where I went a little bit more in depth about UCSB. But one of the things you have to really consider is, well, if I was borrowing money and I went to Fullerton as a commuter student, then living at home and going to campus, then I'm really looking at, probably around 20 grand in terms of out-of-pocket costs for like tuition, gas, parking, those kinds of things for 2 years. Whereas if I'm going to UCSB, you're looking at probably close to about $90,000 for living on campus, and those types of things. So what you really kind of have to kind of just remember is that living at home with mom and dad definitely has its advantages. However, from a personal development side, and again, if you're going to UCSB to party and blow it all, you can do that too. But if you go to UCSB, one of the really big advantages is that living away from home and kind of gaining a lot more independence and basically doing a lot of self-development and growth. You have to really kind of see what's best for you. There's not really one right or wrong answer. But one of the things that if you do go to Cal State Fullerton, join the accounting society, join BAP, you have to get involved. And the reason why is you just saw that video I just showed you. There are a pool of students. You have to stand out. And the way you're going to stand out is by getting involved in those organizations. They're great organizations. I've had a lot of students that have been in them before, but there you go. Now with UC Santa Barbara, it's really joining one of the one of the societies, going to those events. And yeah, but UCSB again, because you're living off campus, it's just a very different vibe compared to Cal State Fullerton. Okay, now here you go. Campus life. Well, I wouldn't call it commuter friendly because I heard parking is a nightmare at Cal State Fullerton. But I also have heard too that Cal State Fullerton in this past year, they over admitted students and all the Cal States right now are really hurting for cash. And so they admitted a lot of students in. And you have to understand is how the Cal States are funded is through the state. Irvine Valley is funded through a property tax model. So we have a very different funding. And the same goes really with the UCSB. One thing I would tell you about both these places is that the professors are there. They either publish or perish for the most part. They're not going to be there. And again, I'm really generalizing here, but at Cal State Fullerton, if you're being taught by a PhD that doesn't have industry experience. Now, by the way, Patricia Wellmeyer, CPA PhD at UCI, bucks to basic any exception to that rule. But when you have faculty that are more focused on publishing and not in the classroom, you're going to be a number. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of going in and realizing that you're going to really be responsible for your own education. I have not heard of anybody living on the dorms at Cal State Fullerton. And I would also kind of say too, is that when you're kind of going through and looking at Cal State Fullerton, um, I would say that as basically going from Irvine Valley, we obviously have a program called GAP4 Plus One. If you did not do that, it's okay. But again, the critical thing is going back to this. You come over here and the yellow indicates I went through and as a junior, I got an internship 6 months away. When you go to, if you're looking at Big Four, you're interviewing in fall of 26 for summer of 28. It is absolutely brutal in terms of, the competitiveness right now, generally in accounting. So you have to be on it. And I did a presentation, got to have LinkedIn, AI, right? You have to know how to use AI, getting used to using Microsoft Excel. Like, look at these beautiful presentations that I just made. I did not do this. It was Gamma. So thank you, Gamma. So going just through here, like again, you're going to be kind of going to and from school, although I have heard at Cal State Fullerton, if you get there early enough in the morning, it's fine. But with UCSB, it's like really, it's a lot of fun. And, it can be sometimes be too much fun, but it's one of those things where it's really like you're living up there. Now, if you have to work while you're going to school, that's obviously going to be a very different thing. But again, it's really a matter of like, what are you looking for out of a school? You have to go visit the campuses while classes are going on. No one's going to card you. No one's going to ID you unless you do something really, really crazy. But go walk the campus, check it out. And what I told my son once when he was visiting a campus with me, I go, if you're worried about someone asking anything, just keep your phone up to your ear. Everybody thinks you're going to blend in anyways, or just be like on your device. Okay. So, yeah, we saw kind of you like Cal State Fullerton accounting. The program's huge. I mean, it's just, and so you're going to have to really take steps to really kind of stand out. I think it's also kind of entertaining that they don't publish their intermediate accounting instructors until the classes already start. So there's a lot of really weird things like that go on. With UCSB, I'll show you the classes in a little bit. But it is obviously it's going to have a little bit more of an economics focus because it is a part of the accounting group, is part of the economics department. Okay, so one of the interesting things about Cal State Fullerton is that they are AACSB accredited, which is extremely rare and very, very hard to do. And I would also kind of say over here is that with Cal State Fullerton, you do have the ability to go through and take other classes. And the one thing I will say is that if you do take classes there are not really going to be any online options, nor really should there be, because when you're taking these accounting classes, the best way to do it is in person, as long as you're getting some value out of it. And then over here, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the different classes you can kind of go through and take just because of my familiarity with them. But over here, like at UCSB, again, you're by the time under the new California Board of Accountancy guidelines that are going to go into effect on January 1st, you should kind of start seeing it's only going to be 120 semester units or 180 quarter units. So it's going to be 24 accounting, 24 business, or 36 accounting, 36 business if you're on the quarter system. Okay. So when you look at as a accounting major at Cal State Fullerton, and this is just upper division classes, and really when you think about this, it's like it's really about preparing for the CPA exam. Remember, when you take the CPA exam, it's FAR, which is financial accounting and reporting, reg or regulation, audit, and then pick your poison, tax, which is TCP, information systems and controls, which is ISC, and then there's also BAR, which is business analysis and reporting. So if you have to take intermediate 1 and 2, which are generally, these are going to be the harder accounting courses: accounting information systems, cost accounting, individual and corporate taxation, which is 308. And then I recommend students to take auditing because it is part of the CPA exam, and then you take your elective. Now, the elective, for example, if you're going to take bar, you should probably take advanced accounting. If you're going to do TCP, maybe take another tax course. If you're going to take ISC, there's actually a Sarbanes-Oxley class there. Also, remember at Irvine Valley College, any accounting courses you cannot get into at your schools, they will not transfer to these schools, but you can take them at IVC for $46 a unit. Okay, now UCSB, you've got like basically intermediate accounting. And again, I kind of modified this because it's to get into the major, and I will refer you to my other video that I'm going to link below. But you've got to get in with a 285 in these 2 different classes. And then the accounting courses, you want to take the year of intermediate accounting. And that's really basically true at both places. Managerial accounting, what's interesting is that UCSB does not require accounting 1B from Irvine Valley. So therefore, they just offer this class. I've heard students say my class is just about the same. Who knows? Maybe they're just trying to be nice to me. Taxation, there's 2 different quarter classes you can take: advanced accounting, and then you've got financial accounting analysis and planning. So you really want to kind of align the courses with the parts of the CPA exam. And if you've got questions about this, feel free to reach out to me. So one of the things is that when you basically go through is you've got to go through and, if you want to, if you send me an email to ivc30tocpa@gmail.com, and I'll leave that also down below. I can send you a Google Sheet, and then you can essentially go through and do your mapping. If you kind of look over here, and what I mean by this is that I have a Google Sheet here. You list out all your classes, and then I basically go through and map through the units. One of my students over here, and he visited me in class today. Basically, you list out everything, and then I will go through and then basically determine, which group here does this fall into. So I do this for students all the time. So if you have a question about this, feel free to reach out to me. But again, also at UCSB and also for Fullerton, is that one of the things I've heard from students kind of repeatedly is that you have to really take accountability for your own thing. Do not rely on counselors, and don't even rely on me. You've got to be really proactive. You have to do your own research. Do not rely on a counselor. By the way, if you do talk to a counselor and they give you advice, ask them for their email address, and then send them an email recapping the conversation, and then ask them to confirm what you just said. Okay, so again, when you look at the thing about UCSB is that it's more highly ranked than Cal State Fullerton, right? Generally, for in general. For accounting, though, you're going to see a lot of students out of Cal State Fullerton. There's a lot of them that are getting jobs out of Cal State Fullerton, but you have to realize that Cal State Fullerton, I mean, the job market in general is extremely competitive. That's just what you have to realize. You have to go through and realize that when you are a transfer student, you've got to hit the ground running when it comes to recruiting. Doesn't really matter which school you go to. You have to be very, very proactive. Okay, so I think that's the end of my presentation. I'm guessing. Let's see what Gamma does here. Okay, perfect. So that's kind of it. Remember, like you're not going to make like if you choose to go to, in my opinion, both schools are great for accounting. You just have to choose the one that's going to be better for you and also be really mindful about getting into debt. If you're going to end up borrowing 90 grand to go to UC Santa Barbara, those are going to be in after-tax dollars. Whereas at Cal State Fullerton, it's going to be a lot more of a cost-effective option. But also kind of think about this too, is that really you've been at a community college for the last 2 years. If you're really trying to get that true college experience, which does not mean drinking every single night and getting completely blotto, that, it's one of those things where you have to kind of just say like, what kind of experience are you going through and looking for? As always, thank you for being with me here today. And to my students, great job in getting into those schools you're going to be going to. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you have comments about any of these videos, feel free to leave them down below. I can hopefully make some more videos soon. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great day.